know that just one tiny habit with your hair could actually make it fall flat? And even make you look years older? The surprising part is, so many women over 60 are still doing this every single day without even realizing it. As we age, our hair naturally becomes thinner, more fragile, and it loses some of that beautiful fullness we used to take for granted. But here's the thing. You don't need expensive products or complicated routines. The real secret is in how you touch and style your hair. Today, I'm going to share the most common styling mistakes women make, along with simple, effective techniques to transform fine, flat hair into something voluminous, elegant, and full of life. So, what's the very first mistake we need to stop making? Let's dive right in. Have you ever stood in front of the mirror, smoothed your hair back with your hands and thought to yourself, "There, that looks better, much neater"? I used to do that all the time. For a few minutes, I felt put together, like I had fixed the little flyaways and gotten my hair under control. But then, only a short while later, my hair would lose all of its body. It would flatten against my head, limp and lifeless, and all that effort I thought I had put in was gone. This is such a common habit, especially for women in their 60s. We think we're tidying up our style, when in reality, we're pressing the hair down and making it look thinner. And here's the thing. As we age, our hair naturally becomes more fragile and less dense. According to the American Academy of Dermatology, women can lose up to 20 to 25% of their hair density after the age of 50. That means every little move we make with our hands has more impact than we realize. Even something as small as running your fingers through your hair can change how full or how flat it looks. I'll never forget one family birthday party. I remember sitting there, brushing my hair back with my fingers every few minutes, trying to look neat for the photos. In my head, I thought I was helping. But later, when I saw the group picture, I was shocked. My hair looked completely flat, lifeless, and honestly, it aged me more than I wanted to admit. My granddaughter leaned over and whispered, "Grandma, your hair looks so thin today." That moment stung. It wasn't her fault. She was just being honest. But it made me realize something very important. My own hands were working against me. And I know I'm not the only one. How many of you have done the same thing? You think you're fixing your hair? But instead, you're undoing all the volume you wanted. It feels like you're smoothing it into place, but what you're really doing is flattening it. The National Institutes of Health reports that nearly 40% of women over 60 experience noticeable hair thinning. And guess what? Styling mistakes, like smoothing and patting too much, can actually account for nearly a third of the problem. So here's the takeaway. The next time you catch yourself pushing your hair back or patting it down, stop for a moment and ask yourself, am I really helping or am I making it worse? Because sometimes it's those tiny, unconscious habits that rob us of the fullness, the softness, and yes, even the confidence that our hair can give us. Another little habit I used to have, and I know many women my age still do, is patting the top of the head after styling. It feels so harmless, doesn't it? Almost like you're just checking to make sure everything is staying in place. But the truth is, every pat you give your hair is like pressing the life right out of it. Think of it this way. Imagine you've just baked a beautiful, fluffy cake. It looks perfect, light, soft, airy. And then without even thinking, you press your hand down on the top. Just one touch. And suddenly, that gorgeous cake is flat, deflated, and no longer what it was a moment ago. That is exactly what happens to our hair when we keep patting it down. I'll never forget one evening when I was getting ready for a reunion with old friends. I spent nearly half an hour carefully blow-drying, lifting, teasing and setting my hair so it looked full, soft and youthful. I was proud of it. But as I sat waiting for my ride, I absent-mindedly kept patting the crown of my head, thinking I was keeping it in place. By the time I actually arrived at the restaurant, the volume was gone. My hair looked tired, limp and flat. One of my friends even leaned over and whispered, "Your hair looks thinner today." I smiled on the outside, but inside I was so disappointed. It felt like all my effort had just melted away with a few careless pats. And I know I'm not alone. How many of you have done the exact same thing? You work so hard to create that soft, bouncy lift, only to undo it without even realizing it. You think you're helping your style, but in reality, you're taking away the very fullness that makes your hair look alive. It's not just personal experience, there's data behind it. A survey conducted by AARP found that more than 65% of women over 55 admitted to touching or patting their hair multiple times a day. And hair experts warn that even 3 or 4 light pats after styling can reduce volume by as much as 40%, especially for fine or thinning hair, which, let's be honest, is very common for women in their 60s. So here's the lesson. Those little touches aren't as harmless as they seem. Every time you pat your head, you're flattening the shape you worked so hard to create. And with that, you're also taking away some of the confidence and joy that comes from seeing your hair look full, soft and alive. So if smoothing and patting only make our hair flatter, what's the right way to bring back that fullness we all want? The answer might surprise you, because it's not complicated at all. It doesn't require an expensive salon treatment or a fancy gadget. All it takes is your own hands. Here's the secret. Use your fingers to swirl and gently lift the hair right from the roots, almost like you're giving yourself a light scalp massage. Instead of pulling your hair straight back, which presses it down against your head, slip your fingers in close to the scalp, make small circular motions, and then lift. Think of it as waking up each strand that's been lying flat, coaxing it to stand tall and give your style natural body. I still remember the first time I tried this. Honestly, I hesitated at first. I worried I'd mess up the neat style I had just worked on. But when I started moving my fingers through my roots, like I was scratching my head a little, I was stunned by the difference. Almost instantly, the front of my hair looked thicker, softer, and had so much more life. My face looked brighter, fresher, and more open. One of my friends even said, "Did you just get a haircut? Your hair looks so much fuller today." And the funny thing is, I hadn't cut or colored it at all. I had simply changed the way I touched it. And here's the science behind why it works. Hair doesn't naturally grow back flat against our heads. It grows outward from the scalp. So if we want lift, we have to work from the base, not the ends. Hair experts say that just 2 to 3 minutes of this circular lifting motion can increase visible volume by up to 30%. That's a big difference, especially for those of us with fine or thinning hair. So let me ask you, when was the last time you gave your hair a little lift from the roots instead of pushing it down? The next time you're styling, I challenge you to try it. Not only will your hair look fuller and more youthful, but it also feels wonderful, like giving yourself a mini head massage to start the day. And really, who couldn't use a little boost like that? Sometimes, even after using all the right hand techniques, our hair still needs a little extra help to keep that lift throughout the day. And that's where a volumizing hair powder spray can make all the difference. Unlike heavy mousses or sticky gels that many of us remember from years ago, this kind of spray is feather light. It won't weigh your hair down or leave it greasy, which is especially important for those of us with fine or thinning hair in our 60s. The last thing we want is a product that makes our style collapse even faster. The trick is simple. Instead of spraying all over the ends, you want to aim directly at the roots. Just a few light sprays at the base, then lift with your fingers in those gentle circular motions we talked about earlier, and you'll notice instant volume. Spray it on the ends, and all you're doing is adding weight. Spray it at the roots, and suddenly, your hair looks alive again. I'll never forget the first time I tried it. Out of habit, I sprayed all over the top of my head, focusing mostly on the ends. Within minutes, my hair looked heavy and flat, like all the life had been drained out of it. But when I finally switched to spraying just at the roots, everything changed. My hair lifted, it stayed in place, and it felt soft instead of stiff. That evening, when I went out with my husband, he looked at me and said, "You look younger today." And honestly, that one little compliment made my whole week. And I know I'm not alone in this. A survey from the Professional Beauty Association found that more than 70% of women over 55 avoid styling products because they're afraid of that heavy, sticky feeling. But here's the good news. Studies show that when applied correctly, lightweight volumizing sprays can boost hair volume by as much as 35 to 40% without leaving buildup, residue, or that dreaded crunchiness. So, let me ask you, have you been avoiding styling products because they always made your hair feel heavy? If so, maybe it's time to give a lightweight spray powder a chance. Used the right way, it's not about changing your hair. It's about bringing out the natural fullness that's already there and letting you feel confident every single day. Mary is 63 years old, and for most of her adult life, she carried a quiet embarrassment about her thin hair. Whenever she was invited to a party or a family gathering, instead of feeling excited about the dress she might wear or the jewelry she'd put on, her very first thought was always, "Will my hair look too flat tonight?" Many times, she avoided the problem the only way she knew how, by tying her hair back tightly or even wearing a hat just to hide how fine it looked. And while no one else may have noticed, Mary felt it every single time. That little shadow of self-consciousness followed her into the room before she even had the chance to smile. But everything began to change when she learned one simple trick, lifting her hair from the roots with a gentle circular motion and adding just a touch of lightweight volumizing spray powder. The transformation was immediate. Her hair suddenly had lifted. It looked fuller, it framed her face beautifully, and it gave her that youthful brightness she thought she had lost. The best part wasn't even her reflection in the mirror. It was her husband's reaction. At their anniversary party, he looked at her, paused for a moment, and with a soft smile said, "You look just like you did at 40. For Mary, that wasn't just a sweet compliment. It was a reminder, proof even, that she could still feel beautiful, confident, and radiant at 63. And let me ask you, have you ever felt the same way Mary did? Have you ever skipped an event or walked into a room wearing a scarf or hat, simply because you were worried people would notice how thin your hair looked. If you have, know this: Mary isn't alone. According to the National Institute on Aging, about 45% of women over 60 say that thinning hair directly affects their confidence in social settings. But here's the hopeful side. Women who learn how to style their hair effectively with the right techniques and products often report feeling as much as 7 to 10 years younger than their actual age. Mary's story teaches us something important. Styling your hair isn't just about vanity or looks. It's about restoring confidence. It's about allowing yourself to feel seen, vibrant, and alive. It's about enjoying those little magical moments, like the sparkle in your partner's eyes when they notice you look just a bit more like your younger self. Linda is 70 years old now, and for decades she followed the same simple routine. After every wash, she would smooth her hair down flat with her hands, believing it helped keep everything neat and tidy. It seemed harmless enough, but little by little, year after year, her hair began to lose its life. It looked flatter, thinner, and more fragile, and she couldn't quite figure out why. Then one day, Linda attended a styling workshop designed for women her age. There, she was shown something completely different. Instead of pressing the hair down, she was told to slip her fingers close to the scalp, make gentle circular motions, and lift the hair upward, as if giving herself a light scalp massage. At first, she was skeptical. Could something so small really make a difference? But she decided to try. And to her surprise, within minutes, her hair transformed. It had more body, more movement, and a softness she hadn't seen in years. The simple act of lifting from the roots gave her not only a new hairstyle, but a new sense of energy. That tiny change gave Linda something much bigger: confidence. She started going out more, saying yes to invitations she might have declined before. She even joined her friends for weekly dance nights. And the most delightful part, she often became the center of attention in the room. People noticed. Her friends would laugh and ask, "Linda, what's your secret? You look so vibrant these days." And Linda would smile, knowing it wasn't a makeover or a miracle product. It was simply changing the way she touched her hair. And let me ask you, have you ever thought about how a tiny habit, something you've done for decades, might actually be holding you back? What if one small adjustment in your routine could make you look, and more importantly, feel, years younger? Research from the Women's Hair Loss Project shows that over 50% of women past 65 continue using old styling habits they learned in their younger years. Habits that can actually make thinning hair look worse. But experts say that just by lifting from the roots, instead of smoothing hair flat, women can improve natural volume by as much as 25 to 30%. Linda's story is living proof. Sometimes it's not about dramatic changes, expensive salon visits, or complicated treatments. It's about letting go of the habits that no longer serve us, and embracing small, simple shifts that bring back our confidence, our vibrancy, and our beauty, no matter our age. So here's what we've learned today. First, stop smoothing your hair straight back or patting it down. Those habits only flatten it. Second, start lifting from the roots with gentle circular motions, just like a little scalp massage. And third, choose the right lightweight volumizing products, especially sprays that keep your hair full without weighing it down. Turning 60 doesn't mean losing your charm. In fact, sometimes it only takes one small change in how you treat your hair to refresh your whole look. And remind yourself that confidence and beauty have no age limit. So here's my challenge for you. Try this technique just once this week. Look in the mirror, see the difference for yourself, and notice how it makes you feel. And if it works for you, share your experience, because your story could inspire another woman to feel beautiful and confident again. And if you'd like more tips like this, go ahead and subscribe. That way, you won't miss the next little secrets to keeping your hair and yourself looking vibrant at any age.